Hi, everyone. I just wanted to give you an introduction to our Civil Rights Unit. I know you might have heard some of this already through ELA, but of course, we're going to be focusing on the history of the movement. So let's start out with the definition, okay? The definition of civil rights are the rights of citizens to political and social freedom and equality. That means freedom as members of a democracy and freedom as members of our civil society. So in our Constitution, that's mostly embodied in the 14th Amendment. So the 14th Amendment was created right after the Civil War, and a lot of the text of it is about the newly freed slaves and what their status is going to be. But over the years, the amendment has sort of come to represent this quest for civil rights. Here's what it says. The 14th Amendment promises equal protection of the law. That means the law is going to be exactly the same for everybody. No matter what your race or religion or sexual orientation, you're going to be protected by the law in the same way. It's going to apply to you the same way that it applies to everybody else, which is kind of the heart of what civil rights means. The other thing that it says is that there won't be any kind of laws that can deny people life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. That means that before you can be deprived of your liberty, sent to jail, there has to be a fair trial, and that the trial laws have to be the same for everybody. So the 14th Amendment continues to be kind of the instrument of civil rights. We're going to be focusing on African Americans, but many different groups have fought for their civil rights through the history of the US. And most of them have used the 14th Amendment to try to get the courts to recognize their rights. For instance, the last big sort of 14th Amendment case was the case that legalized gay marriage. The complainant said that the law wasn't treating them the same because it denied them the ability to get married, which changes your legal status. And the court agreed that according to the 14th Amendment, gay marriage should be legal everywhere. We're going to be focusing on the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s. Of course, we're going to be meeting the key leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, who kind of represent two different ways of trying to achieve this goal of civil rights. So we'll be looking at both of their methods and considering which one we think is the better leader. But the civil rights movement is really the story of thousands of everyday Americans, kids who wanted a better education, people like Rosa Parks who weren't afraid to stand up for what they believe in, even risking her own freedom. She was arrested. And the thousands and thousands of people who took the chance, who took the risk to go out and peacefully protest for their rights. So it's their story as well as the story of these great leaders. And I'm sure you guys have all seen the news in the past couple of days. This is not a dead issue about whether African Americans have that equal protection of the law, if due process is applied equally and fairly to them. And you can see the frustration that some people are venting with some more violent protest. We're going to be focusing a lot on Dr. King's methodology of nonviolent protest, but we're going to be looking at a lot of these current events, Colin Kaepernick, what's going on with George Floyd right now. So we'll be looking at those to finish out our year. So that's just some quick definitions. The screencast will be here for you if you need to come back to it. And now you can start the first activity, which is the story of a boy named Emmett Till. So that's a Nearpod, and you can go right to that. So I'll see you later.